435 years ago, on the 9th August 1588, Elizabeth I said those words. "I know I have the body but of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and of a king of England too. And I take full scorn that Parma or any prince of Europe should dare to invade the borders of my realm, to the which, rather than any disorder shall grow by me, I myself will venture my royal blood. I myself will be your general, judge, and rewarder of your virtue in the field." In this Once Upon a Woman video, I want to discuss with you Elizabeth I, the warrior queen. So it means that we're going to discuss the relationship, the tumultuous relationship between England and Spain, between Elizabeth I and Philip II. We're also going to discuss her pirates, mostly Sir Francis Drake and Sir Walter Raleigh. And we're going to discuss their roles in these wars. More importantly, I'm going to discuss with you and reveal to you the Second Spanish Armada in 1596. Because never think that Philip II just was like, "Oh my God, you won in 1588 and now I'm leaving you in peace." That's not what happened. He never gave up, and it always was a true pain for Elizabeth throughout her reign. The truth is, when Elizabeth I turned down Philip II's marriage proposal in 1559-1560 to preserve the Anglo-Spanish alliance, she truly hurt him and his feelings. The Anglo-Spanish relations would never be the same. Now Philip II had to face and had to deal with a woman who refused to be subjected to any man, including him. Tensions really started quickly rising between England and France, and even more so when Elizabeth was really worried about the Spanish domination, not just of Europe, but also of the New World. From very early on in her reign, she ordered John Hawkins, who was a slave trader and the cousin of Sir Francis Drake, to act as privateers for England, but as pirates for the rest of Europe. It meant that Hawkins made several voyages to the Canary Islands, where he learned of the possibility of financial gain through the slave trade. England at that time was not a big player in the slave trade, and the slave trade is not the Atlantic slave trade that is going to happen later on in the 17th and 18th century. Here it was the beginning of it, with mostly the Spanish and the Portuguese, but the English wanted also their part of the cake. In 1562, Hawkins left Plymouth and attacked Sierra Leone in order to capture 300 slaves. He attacked the Portuguese ships and Spanish ships. He finally reached the West Indies. He sold the slaves and traded them for goods, and went back with lots of goods and gold and money for England, and therefore for Elizabeth. Philip II was furious about this. In 1564, there was a second voyage to capture slaves, and Sir Francis Drake went with Hawkins. The truth is, Drake and Hawkins had the support of the government, had the support not only of Elizabeth, but also of Robert Dudley and two others Privy Councillors, William Herbert, Earl of Pembroke, and the Lord Admiral Edward Lord Clinton. This time in Sierra Leone, Hawkins captured 400 slaves. Same idea, he sold them for goods and gold and brought it all back to England. By 1570s, Drake and Hawkins were raiding Spanish ports to capture the slaves for themselves and to trade them for themselves, but also for England. They were not here to free the slaves. They were not here to think that it was a bad thing. We are in the early modern period where slavery was commonly accepted, and Elizabeth I, though we never truly talk about it, played her role and her part in this. An important voyage was in 1577, which lasted 3 long years. Drake went around the world raiding against Spanish ports. When he finally returned to Plymouth in September 1580, he carried enormous treasure from the Spanish Empire in 1581. Drake was knighted. The war with Spain started because, in many ways, of these raids, but also because of the fight over the Spanish Netherlands and the involvement of the English helping the Protestants in the Spanish Netherlands. The rivalry and the animosity between the two crowns, between the two rulers, kept rising until ultimately a war was looming. After the execution of Mary Stuart in February 1587, there was a real threat of an invasion from Spain. Drake and Sir Walter Raleigh, the other amazing pirate or privateer of Elizabeth I, were in charge of defending and protecting England. At the port of Cadiz, Drake burned many of the Spanish ships. He ensured that the Spanish Armada would not be as big as Philip II was promising that it would be. This was a huge loss for Spain, and Drake had found a way to delay the Spanish Armada for one more year, making sure that English troops and English forces would be ready. There were these nicknames given to Drake, Draco, and for the Spanish, he was the true enemy, the real problem. The Spanish Armada of 1588 comprised of 130 ships that sailed from Corunna in late May 1588. The command was given originally to Alvaro de Bazan, but he died in February 1588, so Philip II had to find another general. He replaced him with Alonso Perez de Guzman. The truth is, this man thought he liked military experience and was not sure that he was up for the task. But Philip didn't give him a choice. He had to invade England. The plan was that the Duke of Parma in the Netherlands, Spanish Netherlands, would also attack England, so attacking England in two fronts. The Spanish fleet was seen from Cornwall in late July. The English ships set up from Plymouth to confront the Armada with Howard as commander, Drake as vice admiral, and Hawkins as rear admiral. The aim and the goal was clear: to prevent the Spanish to land on the English coast. The truth is, the English were lucky. The Duke of Parma, because of the bad weather in the Netherlands at the time, could not leave at the same time. So it managed that the English had only one force, the Spanish, not the Spanish Netherlands, to deal with first. Though we always say, it's because of the wind and because of the weather the English, won. It's not entirely true. First of all, the English ships were smaller, so more maneuverable than the big galleons from Spain. Drake himself captured the ship Rosario, one of the Spanish-based ships, carrying as much as 50,000 gold ducats. With the weather, with the defense, and the fact that the Duke of Parma could not have sent his own fleet, Spanish lost. More than a third of the armada that was sent were lost and did not return to Spain. In the threat of invasion, Robert Dudley, Earl of Leicester, convinced Elizabeth to talk to the troops on the 9th of August 1588 at Tilbury. And this is how I started this video, with this magnificent speech. Soon after the victory, Elizabeth gave a public prayer acknowledging her own weakness and demonstrated her faith and thanksgiving for the saving of her country and her people. She stated that, "I must humbly, with bowed heart and bended knees, to render my humblest acknowledgement and lowliest thanks." She knew how close England had come to be invaded by Spain. Sir Francis Drake and Sir Walter Raleigh and even John Hawkins helped with the Spanish Armada, helped protecting England. Sir Walter Raleigh was an English statesman, soldier, writer and explorer. He was a true courtier as well of Elizabeth. He was one of her favourites. He played a leading part in the English colonization of North America, where he was sent multiple times to found a colony for Elizabeth. He was born to a landed gentry family of Protestant faith in Devon. He was a true favourite of Elizabeth, but unfortunately at her death he lost most of the favour, as James VI, who was going to become James I of England, could not stand him. He was imprisoned in a tower soon after Elizabeth's death and was accused for being involved in the main plot against King James I. In 1616, he was released to lead an expedition to find more gold in the New World. Unfortunately, during the expedition, he came again face to face with some Spanish, but unfortunately there had been a peace treaty, and to appease what happened during that confrontation, he was executed in 1618. The Second Spanish Armada that took place in 1596 was a naval operation that took place during the Anglo-Spanish War. This time the Armada was under the command of Alidentado Martin de Padilla. Unfortunately for Philip II, the Second Spanish Armada had almost the same fate as the first one, though I would even argue that it was even worse, because they didn't even stand a chance. This time actually the weather played a huge part in the victory of the English, if we can even call a victory, because I don't think there was actually like some battles. Because of a big storm, the Spanish Armada was forced to go back home. Nearly 5,000 men died either from the storm or disease, and 38 ships were lost. This had a massive repercussion, especially on the economy of Spain, as the material and financial losses added to the bankruptcy of the Spanish kingdom during the autumn of 1596. In all, Elizabeth was a true warrior queen who was not scared to defend her realm, was not afraid to defend her country's best interest. She was ready, like any other European rulers, to do whatever it took to ensure the security and safety of England. We can do a discussion about this, and maybe I'll create some sort of Q&As for you and I to discuss this more, because I think it's a very important and interesting topic when we learn about Elizabeth I. I hope you have enjoyed this video and that you will join me next week for another Once Upon a Woman video. Thank you so much for watching. I am so grateful. Bye!